put it back. And if you finish the test, just go back to the very beginning just to check that you have completed all of them. Now you'll get this little warning here at the end saying, yes, you haven't answered one of the questions. So we'll come to that anyway when we see it. And so let's have a look at them. Let's review the rest of them, and we'll end the test. Do you want to have a look at the question that you haven't answered?
Yeah.
I'll give you back remote control then, and you can go. You still have it, so I would just review all of the questions and then find the one that you haven't answered and have a go at it, so you can get the full test. Okay? Oh, that's the one, is it?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of a catalytic converter? Catalytic converter, should I say? Yep, I think that's great. Let me just go to review then. Okay, that's them all done. So well done. So let's have a end the test now, and let's have a quick look to see how we've done on this one. Okay, so there you go. There's some red there. Obviously, it's a harder test than normal. So we'll get a chance to go through these questions, and then that way you'll have a better understanding of the ones that you've actually got wrong, or you flagged, should I say, as well. And then, it'll help you when you go to do the real test. So I'll try recording it, but it wouldn't be a bad idea, actually, if you could take some notes if you want. If you've got a pen and some paper or a job book or something, just in case the internet connection doesn't allow the recording to work for you. Yeah, well, have you got something there, or do you want a couple of minutes to find some?
Yeah, I don't have anything.
You have something. Perfect. All righty, let's go through them then, see how we get on. So the first questions come up here is something that you probably wouldn't have seen before, really. I'll just put the sound on.
How will a roof rack affect your car?
Yeah. A roof rack. You know what they're talking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see it, people put their cases on it if they're going somewhere, they're having the day out, they'll put their stuff on top of the roof. And of course, what happens when you do that is you create some wind resistance. I suppose you can think about it like a sail on a ship. When you put the sail up, the sail catches the wind, and obviously gives the boat the power, if you like. So in a car, of course, if the heavier the car is, or actually the more people you have in the car, and the more weight you have in the car, and that includes on the roof, you're going to start to affect the fuel consumption or the energy consumption. See, we're dealing with different fuels today, which includes electricity as well as diesel, petrol, and hydrogen. So we've got lots of different energy sources, but there's one thing that we'll have in common, and that is if you have a roof rack, which is creating wind resistance, or if you have a lot of people in the vehicle, you can expect the vehicle not to have the same amount of miles per usage of the energy. All right? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fuel consumption will increase. Now, I think one of the things that catches people, I don't know whether you got the consumption bit. Is that the bit that you probably didn't understand?
Fuel consumption will increase.
I know what it means. It's just.
Oh, you know what it means? Okay, that's fine, because you don't really see consumption when you do like some form of mechanical test or anything, or like a theory test. So consumption you normally hear when people talk about what they've had to eat.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've used the word consumption here. So the word consumption is normally when someone eats something, or well, if you consume to eat something, you see. So fuel consumption will increase. So you'll need to take more fuel on board if you're going to have a roof rack on the roof of the car. You're going to use more, so you're going to need to take more on for your journey. So you'd have to be prepared. And that's really relevant with the electric vehicle, actually, because of, yeah, because the electric vehicle has a tendency to use energy quickly in these situations. And that's one of the things I've noticed with it. It actually will use energy a lot quicker, and it can surprise you. So you have to be aware of that. So it's a great question. It's a great it's a great question to come up at this point in your career as a driver. Well, let's look at number 3 then. So you're on a 3-lane motorway. Which lane are you in if there are red reflective studs on your left and white ones to your right?
Oh.
So we talked about this, I think, on our previous class, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought the right lane had red studs.
Yes, that's what it seems that way. So if you think about it, we talked about it like imagine a set of traffic lights, didn't we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we imagine a set of traffic lights, and the first light comes on at the top of the traffic light is,
Red.
yeah. So that's the first one. So that's why we sort of said, well, red's the first one, and that's the first lane, if you like. So that's the left lane. The first lane is on, you come onto on a motorway or a dual carriageway. We're meant to be in the left lane, the first lane, unless we're doing something like overtaking or
I mixed up my
something
left
like
and
that.
right.
What's that?
I mixed up my left and right.
It's okay. Hey, I do it myself.
I was
Worry
I
about
was
it.
thinking the left lane. Nope, hit the
Were
right
you?
lane.
All right, okay. Well, look, it's a good thing to remember then for when you do the theory test, isn't it? Because it's something that you might do again. So just take your time with that question and
I
don't
had
be in a
I had the whole image that you showed me last time in my head too.
listen, don't worry about it. It's kind of I call that a memory trigger though, and the fact that you've actually made this mistake now, it will actually help you now. So the next time you'll think about it a little bit more, and you'll think, okay, where's the first lane? Is it on the first lane? Is it on my left? Is it on my right? And so now you've planted that seed. There's more likely that you're not going to get that wrong the next time, because you remember the first lane is the first light you see at the top of the traffic light, which is the red one. So the red studs are on your left side. And of course, the amber is the next light you see, and that's on the right side of the motorway. And we remember then that where would we find the green one? What's the green one for?
Um. Uh. Green one was for the slip road, was it?
Yes, well done. Great answer. The slip road. Sometimes they do call it another name. They call it the acceleration lane sometimes, which, or they might call it that, or they might call it deceleration lane. But yes, a slip road is a good answer as well. So well done. Let's look at question 12 then. Okay, so what is the national speed limit on a single carriageway road for cars and motorcycles?
What's the national speed limit on a single carriageway road for cars and motorcycles?
You see, this one is identified for you because the word carriageway can be confusing, I think, sometimes.
That's hard for 50.
Yeah, because carriageway just is another word for the road, really. It's a single carriageway. And that's all it is. They just stick it in there sometimes. And then you heard dual carriageway, of course, that's slightly different. You've got 2 lanes on that one, haven't you? Dual
Yeah.
carriageway. So dual just means two. So, 2 lanes, dual, you see. So single carriageway just is an ordinary road, basically. Ordinary road like the country roads. And on the country roads, if you find a white circle with a black line, and that's what they're referring to, that's what's known as a national speed limit applied sign. Have you come across that one before?
Yeah.
White circle with a black line. Yeah, and when you go onto a single road, like a country road or a single carriageway, then the speed limit for a fully qualified driver can be 60 miles per hour, just like you saw me talk about on the hazard perception test. When you go onto country roads, the white circle with a black line leads people a little bit into a false sense of security. because they think, oh, right, there's a sign that tells me I can now, give it a bit more juice, a bit more motion. And of course, the actual country roads are very dangerous. So just because you see a white circle with a black line, and it tells you can do 60 miles per hour, guess what? You don't want to do it all the time. So, because you've got to take the weather conditions into consideration, you've got to take in the road surface of the road that can be pretty bad these days. They look as if they were built by the Romans, and you also see sometimes you have to take into consideration your ability as a driver, because your skill level at the very beginning is at the lowest level, and so you also take that into consideration.
Yeah.
So let's look at 17 then. What does this sign mean? Okay, so this sign is quite an interesting sign. It comes up quite a lot on the test, and it is one that people have a tendency to get wrong. And the reason why is because there's one that's very similar to that. And the one that's very similar to it looks nearly identical to it, except the only difference is it has an arrow pointing, coming towards you. And that arrow basically means, when you see it, that it's contraflow. So an arrow that says contraflow, and that's the one that you've marked, will for quick recognition, will actually have an arrow in it. That's how you know it's contraflow. Okay. You see that one is that one's a with flow, with the flow of the traffic, and so therefore there's no need to put an arrow in it to show that there's nothing coming towards you.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So the reason why they put the arrow in it, and it's called a contraflow, as you went for contraflow, is because contra means against the flow. I know it's a strange word to use, but they use it in the highway code, and I don't know why they just don't make it easy for everyone. But contra is it's obviously a Latin word or something. Yeah. So contra means against the flow. So against the flow of the traffic. So you would need to see an arrow for that to tell you that, and the arrow would be pointing towards you. This one has no arrows in it, and the quick recognition then, to keep it really simple in your mind, as soon as you look at this sign, if there's no arrows in it, it's with flow.
Yep.
How does that sound?
Good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now you want to take note of that one, okay? Now let's have a look at 20 then. Who has priority when traffic lights are out of order?
Who has priority when traffic lights are out of order?
Well, the traffic lights are there for a reason, and they are to give traffic coming from one direction or the other the priority, or as I like to say, the boss, make someone the boss, and avoid that priority word. So it means the boss, right? So who's the boss in this situation? Well, okay, well, the lights are out of order. And I'm afraid what that means is there's nobody the boss anymore. Yeah. And that's it in a nutshell. So, it's kind of like the old saying, first come, first served.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about crossroads quite a lot on our lesson, on the practical lessons. And we know that crossroads can be dangerous enough. And so we have to be careful never to turn in front of another moving vehicle that's coming towards us. We know about this, don't we?
Yeah.
I'll just draw a little diagram just to bring this to mind. So there's a crossroads. And normally there's traffic lights, but this time they're saying to you there's none. So basically you've got to be careful, haven't you? Because you've got all sorts of trouble. You've got some people could be coming from this way. Okay, you've got people who could be coming from this way. And you've also got people who could be coming from this way. So it's not an easy one. If a traffic lights fail here, it becomes really tricky. So you would be here in this example, for example, and then if the lights are out, you'd have to take careful consideration to your right before you come out, and also to your left. And if your intention was to do this, then you have also got to take consideration of traffic coming this way, because you can't
Yeah.
really turn in front of them anyway if they're moving towards you, because we don't really know where they're going to go. They might change their mind. So I suppose that would be a nightmare for that to happen. I haven't seen it happen. So I don't think it's logical that at crossroads the lights would fail without causing a major problem and them getting it fixed or putting a traffic warden or someone in the middle there to tell you what to do. But if it did happen, just be aware of the legal side of it, and that is who has priority if the traffic lights fail. Nobody. Okay, let's do 21. Okay, so this is first of all, you can see straight away it's a triangle. And a triangle is a warning sign of something which is ahead of you. Yes. Now you get it. It's telling you that and I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you could have something like this, but the low bridge sign, it looks like bricks in it. You can actually see the little bricks, and the other thing is the reason why it's probably the bricks is because it's an old tunnel that you're going through. But they always put a little height as well for like lorries and trucks to know if it's a low bridge. They'll want lorry and truck drivers to not get stuck underneath it. You know that one in Carrickfergus, they're always getting stuck there, right? I don't know whether
Yeah.
you've seen that or not, but over the years, the lorries try to go through it all the time, and they get it wrong. So anyway, there's a height restriction on it, and you can see it clearly labeled. And that's how you would also know that this is the sign for a humpback bridge, because it hasn't got the little bricks on it, and the other thing is to remind you is it hasn't got a sign which tells you the height of it. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, let's look at 22. You're about to overtake a cyclist on a road that has a 30 miles per hour speed limit. So how much room should you leave them as you overtake? Okay, so the cyclists have a tendency to do what? Especially the non-professional ones. Now, I mean, the ones that are not wearing like ballet dancer outfits, the ones that are, just an amateur cyclist, if you like. What might they do?
Overtake.
They could actually overtake, yes, a stationary car and things, and therefore move into your path. That's correct. I'm thinking about wobbling a bit. Like wobbling.
Yeah, they won't be able to control it properly.
Yeah, they wobble a bit, and then they try to avoid potholes in the road, and they swerve out all of a sudden. So yeah, that's not a good idea, is it? So you got to be careful with it with the cyclists. And I've always thought that in Larne in particular, where you'll be doing your driving test in the summertime, obviously there's a lot more cyclists on the road, so that's relevant. But give them plenty of room, you see, and of course, 2 car widths would be a lot. 2 car widths would be about probably 6 or 7 meters. So you've actually went for overdoing that a little bit now. And so, when you pass a stationary vehicle, how much room do you normally give a car when you pass a stationary vehicle? What's the distance that they like you to leave? 1 meter. As if a car door was open, right?
Yeah.
So that's the very minimum. So at least as much room as you would if you were overtaking a car is the correct answer. At least as much. So that's the very minimum. So I would definitely think I'd be giving them more than that. I would give them more than that, because of the fact that they might just swerve all of a sudden in my path. So, and yeah, so that's, at least a car, but for me, that's a very minimum. I wouldn't overtake a cyclist and give them that. I'd give them a little bit more than that. But you went for 2 car widths, so that's just a bit too much. All righty.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at 31 then. I'll let this one play out. Let me hear.
In order to supervise a learner driver, you need to have held a full driving license for the same category of vehicle for at least 3 years. What other requirement must you meet?
Well, you went for a car with dual controls, which is an interesting answer because you would think that would be the right answer because obviously if someone going out to learn to drive without the ability to be able to stop the car in an emergency is quite dangerous, and it's definitely something that's interesting. Especially for the first 2 or 3 sessions, a person's going to drive on the road. You're going to be you definitely don't want to be on the road until you've got confidence in your ability to control a vehicle in a limited area. So yeah, I would think that that's a good answer you've given there. But in actual fact, it's not the correct answer because they have the you know how we talked before about how sometimes there's good answers and then there's a better answer if you like.
Yeah.
So you have actually that's a good answer, but there's a better one, and the better one's actually a legal requirement. And the legal requirement is an age. You're not allowed to take a person out on driving lessons unless your minimum age is 21 because the if you think about it logically, the earliest you can pass a driving test is 17. And and being and yeah, and that's a fact. So therefore, yes, 21 years old is the youngest you'll ever find someone in driving lessons. It can be slightly different when you're dealing with the disablements and things, though. There is a slightly difference in that, but that's the standard answer that you would find on the highway code test that you're going to do.
Yeah.
But like I say, it was a good answer. So yeah, I see what you're thinking about for sure. You can imagine what it would be like on the roads if everybody was out learning to drive with no dual controls there. Yeah, carnage. Okay, so here we go. Where should you stop to rest if you feel tired when you're traveling on a motorway? Oh, it's an interesting one because I mean, you could say that you felt that tired that your driving had become dangerous. I suppose that's what you were thinking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's again, it's probably a correct answer in some respects. If you felt that your driving you were losing control of the car so much that you were becoming dangerous, that you would have no option but to pull over on a hard shoulder if you felt unwell, extremely unwell, and that would be a safe answer. However, they want this answer from you because what they're worried about is they're worried about people who just stop on the hard shoulder for a cup of coffee, for example, or to have a picnic, or
Yeah.
just because they feel a little bit tired, to just pull over and stop. Because the hard shoulder's there for a reason. It's there to help lorry drivers who, lose a wheel or get a puncture to pull in. And, it's quite a dangerous place to hang about, actually, a hard shoulder, especially in some of the big motorways like the M6, traveling right through the south of England, right up to, northern parts of England and into Scotland. It's the same. There's M6 is a massive road, so you can imagine that there's a lot of lorries on there for 5 hours at a time, and they can have problems, and they need to use the hard shoulder. So the best answer then is actually just if you felt a little bit tired. It didn't say you were in illness or anything. It just says if you look at listen to the question, it doesn't say anything about
Where should you
serious
stop
health.
to rest if you feel tired while you're traveling along a motorway?
So the answer is kind of in the question there. It's not saying it's serious. You see, if I'd used words like serious or you were feeling extremely ill, you could understand that answer you give. But because it's not said that, then you have to consider the fact that guess what? I can pull into the next place for a cup of coffee somewhere and to go for a walk, even let the windows down a bit, and when you stop in the service, have a quick power nap, before you continue with your journey.
Yeah.
I like a power nap myself. So yeah, we power nap for 10 or 15 minutes, and guess what? You're good to go again. Another hour or so. All righty, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, a horse rider is in the left-hand lane approaching a roundabout. Whoa, scary.
A horse rider is in the left-hand lane approaching a roundabout. Where should you expect the rider to go?
Well, I mean, you've got the correct answer for a vehicle. The left lane is where you should be if you're going ahead, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we normally like to be, unless the left-hand lane was blocked for some reason. We could still do the straight ahead in the right lane, of course, we're allowed to by law. But the preferred lane to when to go straight ahead is in the left lane. So you've kind of went for the correct answer if you were a driver. If you were a car driver or a motorbike driver or a lorry driver. However, with the horse, I'm afraid we have a different problem actually. And you could probably know what it is now that you've seen the correct answer. Horses have a tendency to go any way they want to go. They just they can rear up a little bit. And so when you see a horse rider in front of you, and if it is at a roundabout or a junction, my advice is to stay well back and let it get on with its business. Don't get anywhere near it. And because they can't actually do anything, and you don't see that many people ever taking a horse to a roundabout, to be honest with you. It would be kind of a very busy road, and would be very dangerous for the rider and the horse rider. So I wouldn't technically expect that. But I think the question is set up in a way to remind you of the danger associated with horses, really. That's all. It's to try to remind you that, if you approach a horse, it's at a junction, to stay well back from it and let it get on with its own, let it get on with its journey, and then you can make your journey. I think that's really all this question is highlighting. So it's a tricky one, but yeah. Good enough. Move to the next one then. 39. Okay, so what's a rumble device
What's a rumble device designed to do?
Yeah, got that one eventually. So what's a rumble device designed to do? So what is a rumble device then? When you look at it in the picture, what does it look like to you?
Don't know.
Stripes on the road, isn't it? Like stripes. That's what it looks like. The yellow stripes there, yeah. But they're not flat, They're not completely flat. They're actually off the ground a little bit. And whenever you drive over them, there will be like this rattling noise. Yeah, it'll rattle your whole car. And they sometimes give them the name traffic calming measures, actually. But they don't calm drivers down, as far as I know. Most drivers get upset when they go over them because they get their teeth start rattling, right? And so does every part of the car. So a rumble device, and I suppose rumble is the key. You see, rumble, like thunder, boom, boom. Yeah, so that's what it's there for. And of course, once you start going over them, you're going to be alerted to the noise, aren't you, and the vibration.
Yeah.
You're going to actually feel something that'll get your attention. And that's what its job is, to get your attention, to alert you to a hazard. And a hazard in this occasion looks like it's going to be a roundabout, for example. And they put them in places like if you're coming off a motorway, for example, and you need to reduce your speed quickly. Well, so you're going to find that they want you to slow down quickly, and by doing so, you'll feel that noise, and vibration through the car. All right, let's look at the next one. You're about to start a journey towing a trailer. All right, so you're going to put a trailer on the back of the car. What should you do if you notice that a light on your trailer is not working? Yes, that's an interesting one, isn't it? And you sometimes see that with trailers. They don't. They have the same lights as a car has, don't they? The back of a trailer.
Yeah.
What lights would be on the back of a trailer then? What kind of lights would they have?
The reversing ones.
Reversing one, yeah.
Hazard lights, is it?
Yeah, they'd have the hazard lights. Yeah, exactly. And done. And brake lights.
Yeah.
And of course the indicator to let you know where you're going. So when you connect your trailer to the back of your car, before you go anywhere, you should run the checks to make sure that they're all working, And on doing so, you will find that the trailer lights maybe have been left, the trailer's been sitting for a long time on its own. And of course, sometimes that causes problems with the bulbs, the little bulbs that's inside them. And they're easy enough replaced. So you went for disconnected trailer electrical coupling before continuing with your journey. Okay, so I see what you were thinking about. Because the lights weren't working, you wanted to disconnect them and then tried to see if there was a reason for it before connecting them again. And that's probably a method you could do to clean the connections, disconnect it, clean the connections and rejoin it, and it might cure the problem. However, there's a better answer, and it's very simple, really. The answer, when you think about it, is just repair the fault before continuing with your journey, which is, if you think about it logically, it's a better answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it covers more possibilities, ticks all the boxes, if you like, to repair the fault before continuing with your journey. It's kind of like a general statement, really. So let's have a look at the next one. All right, we've got 4 triangular warning signs, and it actually gives you the answer here, would you believe?
I was going for that one.
You went for the school one, didn't you? So that's a school crossing, children up ahead.
I thought that one would be the second one.
Well, if you look at the triangles, first of all, there is only one of these signs indicate that there's a crossing, like some form of a crossing, like a pedestrian crossing. And you know what indicates what a crossing is on the sign?
The dot lines.
That dotted lines. It shows there's a path of some type, which is really just telling you that this is a proper crossing place where people can cross a road. And the zebra crossings, of course, the old one with the black and white markings, and has the beacon, the orange beacon, sometimes on a pole, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what a zebra crossing is. They're not as popular now as they used to be. You're more likely to find one of those pelican crossings, aren't you? The one with a flashing amber light.
Yeah.
That tells the driver that they have to wait until everyone's finished crossing before they continue on. That's an interesting question, that one. Can you go on a flashing amber light on a pelican crossing?
No.
Sorry, what's that?
No.
Well,
You
yeah,
can.
well, you can. That's right. It's the only time you can ever go on an amber light. It's the only time you could ever go on amber light. It's a flashing amber light at a pelican crossing, because amber always means stop. I know, but you can think about it like be prepared to go or get ready to go when it goes amber. But the only time you can actually go is on a flashing amber. It's a pelican crossing. It's the one that's activated by the button. And
Yeah.
that has a different sequence of lights, doesn't it, than all the other ones. The sequence of lights are different on the way down. And it goes from red, and what comes after red on an ordinary set of traffic lights?
Amber.
Yes, so you have red and amber together for a second, don't you?
Yeah.
The red and amber are together for a second. But when you do a pelican crossing, what happens is something slightly different. What comes after red on a pelican crossing?
Flashing yellow.
Yeah, flashing amber. The red disappears. It's just a flashing amber. And you need to remember that one, because that comes up on the test a lot. And they try to confuse you a little bit to see if you know exactly what you're talking about. They'll ask questions like, what light will a driver see on a pelican crossing? And
Yeah.
the only light. Yeah, exactly. They do that with you sometimes to try to find out, about the flashing amber phase? And so what lights will a driver not see at a pelican crossing? Well, they won't see red and amber together, will they?
No.
Because that's not for the pelican crossing. That's for just an ordinary set of traffic lights. So let's have a look at question number 42 then. Oh, arm signals. That's a new one, isn't it?
Yep.
Kind of like what you do when you're on a bicycle. And you remember doing that with the bicycle lessons? when you're at
Don't know.
school? Eh?
I don't even know if we did bicycle lessons.
Oh, well, I did in my school, I suppose, but I'm older than you, so they maybe stopped doing them now. They haven't got time to do them anymore,
Well,
maybe.
they did do them, but I don't know if
Yeah.
I did them.
Well, the thing about it is that they're exactly the same, really, as you would do on a bicycle. Um, the same arm signals actually are exactly the same as if you were on a bicycle, except for when you're turning left, you see, because when you're turning left in a bicycle, you can stick your left arm out to see you're going to go left, but you can't do it in a car because you'd smack your passenger. Not only would you smack your passenger, you would actually nobody could see it because it's directly behind you. And that's the reason it's out the back window, so nobody would see it. So what does the arm signal mean? So this one here is telling you then, because you can't stick your left arm out, you have to imagine then the only way you can inform the driver behind that you're doing something like turning left is to do this. You stick your arm out of the window and you have a circular motion pointing in the direction that you're going to go, like, if you can see the way the arrows are, it's showing that it's going anti-clockwise. So that's telling the driver behind it you're going to pull over on the left. The reason why that's relative is, suppose, in today's world, we have all these different energy sources pushing cars around the place. Maybe they find the battery might fail, or electric cars might have a problem with the battery, and then guess what? You don't have any lights, maybe. Do you see? There's possibilities of that nowadays. Whereas I think these signs, these arm signals, might be relevant for that reason, because you wouldn't really see people doing that at any time. In the last decade, 10 years. But I think in the future, it could be something that might have to happen if you have an emergency situation with your power in the car. So that's maybe why they're introducing them into the test a little bit. 44. What should you do before starting a journey in foggy weather? Yeah, you see that one. Yeah, it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because
Didn't have
that's
lights.
yeah, you put a high visibility jacket on, and I was just reading through the question there again because it seemed a bit confusing to me. What the possible answers, why would they put a high visibility jacket on? What would you do before starting a journey in foggy weather? Well, this is relative to driving. It's only to do with driving. And it's not
Yeah,
saying you're going to go for a walk or you're going to be on a bicycle. And that's why that answer can't be right, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Because that would be more relating to if you were going to walk or.
yeah,
Yeah, so basically, foggy weather means that your visibility is going to be poor and you won't be able to see very well. And if you can't see very well, then you've got no option but then to allow more time, because you don't want to be running late. And if you're running late in a car, what we have a tendency to do is drive too fast and drive too close to people and be irritated because we're going to be late and get told off by our boss. So when you get up in the morning and you see the weather is bad, you want to be a bit earlier then, get your windows clean and before you head off. Of course, these mornings are very frosty and cold, so a wee tip for you and anyone listening to this podcast, if you like, in the future, would be to make sure you do not start the engine or put power into the engine without putting hot water on the base of your window wipers, and make sure they're removed from the windscreen. Because if they're frozen solid, as soon as you put power to the vehicle, most vehicles will activate the automatic window wiper, and that will burn the motor out in the car and will lead to a very expensive bill. And today that's very expensive. It could be near £1,000 by the time you replace the motor and also the computer that runs the window wipers. Most modern cars have a very complex computer that runs the window wipers on its own. So take note of that one for me. And when you pass the driving test and you go to drive in a frosty morning, the first check you want to do is to make sure that your windows are clear and you've definitely put some warm water, not roasting water because it'll crack your windscreen, but warm water, lukewarm water over your window wiper base and release the window wipers from the windscreen. You got that okay?
Yeah.
And allow more time. All right, allow lots more time for your journey. What should you do when you see an older person about to cross the road ahead? Well, what do old people do? What?
Go slow.
Yeah, they go a bit slower, but they have also a tendency to think they're still 21 when they're 81. And their judgment of speed and time is a little bit confused sometimes. This is relative because the most popular accidents to occur or pedestrians get hurt indicates that it's actually people over the age of 66 and actually children under the age of 14 are the two most, I'm afraid, the two most common age groups of pedestrians put to hurt by making the wrong decision. Now, when the driving test comes into play, this becomes a little bit more tricky. Now, this is a general question. It's giving you a general opportunity to answer it. It's saying a general statement would be careful, they may misjudge your speed. So that's a general question, all right? And it's not being specific. In other words, there's not telling you, have they started to cross onto the road? It's not telling you that information. It's not telling you, are they standing waiting to cross the road? So, I mean, just for the driving test point of view, you would never, in Northern Ireland currently, you don't have to, by law, stop when someone's waiting to cross the road. And if they're looking at you, and they see you and they're not started to cross the road, I wouldn't encourage them to come across the road because there is a situation that can happen with this. And I'm just going to draw a little diagram to show you roughly what would happen here. So this is a road, okay? And this is a parked car. Basically, this is the cars that stopped to allow someone who was standing at the side of the road. Bad diagram, but I'm sorry, it's only a mouse I have to play with here. So this is the person about to walk across the road, and you have decided here in this vehicle to stop, to let them walk, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, you didn't have to because they hadn't went onto the road, and they didn't run onto the road, and they weren't not looking at you, which is also relative. They were looking at you, you seen them, and you decided to stop. Now, here's the problem you have, is this vehicle behind you doesn't know why you've stopped. It can't see this. So what it does is overtakes you in a hurry, probably because they're late for work, whatever. And unfortunately, these people will think because you've stopped, especially if they're children, that because you're the adult, you're the driver, it's all okay, and they'll just run across the road. So there's the danger I have with this situation, okay?
Yeah.
Regardless of everything else, that's the danger attached to that. So the safer bet for me is on a driving test or when you pass your driving test and someone is waiting to cross, if they're looking at you, is to continue with a nice steady pace in case they change their mind and decide to run across the road. But not to encourage them to walk in front of you. Unless they're already on the road and then the decision has been taken out of your hands, well then, there's not a terrible lot you can do about it. Okay, not a terrible lot you can do about it. All right, let's look at the next one. Oh, by the way, there's your bridge that you talked about earlier. The low bridge, yeah?
Yeah.
And you can see it's got its little sign here to tell you that it's low and it's got a height restriction here and it's telling you all about this information and warning you. That's what the checkered mark's for. And it's got a warning sign above it saying the height that you've got to be, the limit to go through. And so the question is, which type of vehicle should be ready to give way to as you approach this bridge? And the reason why it's asking you that is because of this bit. I'm going to circle it in the middle. The diagram's not the best, but hopefully, can you see that area there? Can you see this white mark, like a
Yeah.
goalpost? Well, that's telling you that vehicles who come through this tunnel, who are quite large but are allowed to because of this height tells them they can, they're going to be in the middle of the road.
Yep.
And of course, which vehicle in this group of four is going to be big?
Bus.
And there goes your correct answer. So which type of vehicle should you be ready to give way to as you approach the bridge? Well, there is only one correct answer there, really. As you come this way, approaching, we will have to be careful there's not a bus coming through there, because that's going to be in the middle of the road because of this restriction in height. And I suppose that's not that obvious if you're not a lot of driving experience. But now that you've seen it, hopefully that will make you remember it, that when you
Yep.
approach a low bridge and you see that sign warning you that large vehicles will have to be in the center of the bridge, then you need to be anticipating that and possibly slowing down and stopping to allow them to come through if they've already started their journey.
Yep.
Look at the last one, 47. What makes your tires illegal? Tires illegal. Now, if you have a large, deep cut in the sidewall, that couldn't be good for you to drive a car, would it?
Yeah.
If they have a large, deep cut in the side wall of the tire, well, that means if you think about a tire looks like this, and the tread's on the top of it, then that's the tire. But what they're saying to you on the side of it, you've got a cut here, you know, tread on the top of the tire. So that's a problem, right? Because that means that the actual tire itself is dangerous because it's got a cut on it. That tire could explode out. All the air will come out of it very quickly. And unfortunately, when the air comes out of a tire very quickly like that, especially if you're in motion, the car will pull really severely to the direction of this tire that's went wrong, if you like. And that could lead to a serious issue, you see. So you went for if they were bought secondhand. Now you can actually buy tires secondhand as long as the tire tread depth and it's correct legally. Do you know what that is? Do you know what the correct tire tread depth of a tire is?
The pattern on it.
What's that?
The size of like the pattern on it.
Yes, the pattern of it's important, but what they're referring to is the depth of the tread. You know how deep it is. We should even get a little diagram of that for you up before we're finished and let you see that exactly what they're referring to. But the legal tire tread depth of a tire has a number attached to it, and it's 1.6 millimeters. All right, 1.6 millimeters. And that's basically the legal. And you could be asked this question on the day of your driving test. The questions, the show me and the tell me questions. One of them could be what's the legal tire tread depth of a tire? So it's 1.6 millimeters is the legal tire tread depth of the tire. I'll see if we have a diagram of that before we're finished today and let you see that. So you can see exactly what I'm referring to. Anyway, so let's end the review for now. I will not do the hazard perception test at the moment because we did that on the video I sent you. So we'll save some time and concentrate on the hardest part of this, if you like, the questions. So let's have a quick look to see where our weakest area would be, if you want to take note of this one for me. So you can see you have 100% correct in alertness and attitude and case study. Perfect. Well done. Let's have a look at the ones that need a little bit of work. So documents, you've been caught out with them a little bit. And you've got 50%. So that you only asked 2 questions, you only got one wrong. So they're not really too much of a drama, but we'll have a look at that in a wee second. Another 100% in area instance, actions, and emergencies. So well done. And the motorways caught you again. That was what we found the other day. We were struggling a little bit with the motorway ones. So they're still showing us a bit of a weak area for you, Carter, okay? And road and traffic signs, I'm afraid, have caught you out on this test. That's been that's been the area that you really have had the most trouble with. You've out of a possible 8 questions, you've only got 3 right there. So there's a bit more work to do there for sure.
Yeah.
Not so too bad as we go down the rest of it. Vehicle owners will be 1 question. So at the moment, then, just to show we're clear, the area that you're the weakest on at the moment is your road and traffic signs. All right. Road and traffic signs need a bit more work. Now, I'll help you with this a bit today by setting up a 20-question sequence of questions for you to try to improve that for you during this session. And later on this afternoon, I'm going to do another online podcast which will cover road traffic signs. So that'll also help you. And I'll post that on my TikTok